Now, in our first example, our decimal digits did not affect our whole digits. That is not always going to be the case. Sometimes you are going to add decimal digits together, which create a whole or more than a whole. So we're going to have a look at what happens then in this example. So this time I am working with hundreds, tens, ones, and then tenths. And in this number I've got tens, ones, and tenths. This time I think I will work this out using the split strategy. So that means that I'm going to be pairing up my different place values with each number. Now I've only got hundreds in this number, so I'm just going to write that down here to remind myself that I will have 100 to include in my total at some point. And then I'm going to take the 40 out of this number and the 20 out of this number and add them together. So 40 add 20 equals 60. Okay, so I've done my hundreds I'm remembering about, I've done my tens in both numbers. Let's do our ones. So this time I've got 8 and 2. Now we know that when we add 8 and 2, that gets 10. So even though we've added ones together, we have actually ended up with a tens number. Now the reason I'm pointing that out is because the pattern is the same then when we add tenths. So like we did in the first example, remember it's not 7 add 4, because that makes it look like we've got 7 whole ones and 4 whole ones. 0.4, 0.7, okay, because we're not working with whole numbers. So this time, if I've got 7 tenths, remember that that's what that means. So we could write it as a fraction, like 7 tenths and 4 tenths. Okay, so this is just another way to write it out. It means exactly the same thing. If I do 7 add 4, I'm going to get 11. And like we had a wee look at before the holidays, 11 tenths is an improper fraction. What that actually means is that we've got one whole, because our 10 tenths would be one whole, and one left over, 1/10 left over. So in decimal form, that would mean that I'd have 1.1. I'm just going to get rid of the fractions down the bottom here. Just hang on, bear with me 1 second. There we go, just so I've got a wee bit more room to work with. Okay, so now I've worked out my tens, I've worked out my ones, worked out adding my tenths together and remembering this 100 over here. So now I need to add all of them together. So if I do 100, add 60, that'll give me 160. Okay, so added that on. If I then add on my 10, that will get me 170. And then 170, add my 1.1, let's just write that out down here. Okay, so it's my whole number that gets added on to this whole number, 171, that'll be. It's 1 to the 0, 1 and 0 is 1. And then don't forget that number after the decimal point, 0.1. And that's my final answer here.